This is just going to be a quick little video, I guess. Yeah. Hello, Love Triber. Thanks for dropping by. I'm glad you got in touch with me and got a message about doing this little video. Necessary Truth was suggesting this might be an important thing to mention, and so the more I thought about it, yes, absolutely, it's extremely important. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about Pluto. Some people don't think it's a planet. I do. Not that I'm an expert at these things, but it's out there. It's a big hard rock. It's a ball. It's a perfect sphere. And it's been a mythological creature for thousands of years, and then it was discovered with, I guess, telescopes and radio telescopes, and lo and behold, the mythology is no longer a myth, it's a fact. But some astronomers think, well, it's not really a planet, but I've never heard any argument why it's not. There are asteroids and all sorts of other things that orbit the Earth that do not have this behavior, which is very quantifiable. And I personally choose to consider Pluto to have really profound significance in my version of Western astrology. In my opinion, the farther out you go in the solar system, our little solar system, the deeper and deeper you go to the depth of the soul, the human soul. So what we know, what we have is the sun at the core, which basically is the essence of all life in our solar system and here on Earth for all of us. And the main bodies that we know are Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. But we also account for the sun and the moon. Okay, so it's 10 bodies. And the way we do the charts here, we put the Earth as though the Earth is at the center of our solar system. Of course, it's not, but when we observe our solar system from Earth, we feel like we're at the center of the universe. So anyway, that's what I keep doing. if we all lived on the sun and the sun was the center of the universe, there would be no things that we call retrograde time passages in the planets, because everything would be revolving around the sun in perfect perpetual circles. But Earth is off center, and so we observe planets, and like Mercury is the obvious one when everybody talks about Mercury retrograde. In terms of a chart, it goes retrograde roughly 3 times a year, and each retrograde period is roughly 3 weeks long. So on a chart, if I did a whole chart, it would look like this: 1, 2, 3, and each of those periods is the retrograde period, where from Earth it looks like the orbit of Mercury stalls out and actually goes backwards, and then it stalls out and goes forward again into normal direct motion. It's just a visual anomaly, and of course the planet does not suddenly stop, slow down, and reverse, and then stop, slow down, and then go direct again. It just keeps going round and round and round, but we observe it, and we call it a retrograde when our observation shows the slowdown, and it's because we're off center. So from Earth, all the planets do the same thing. They have their retrograde periods. And the further out you go into our solar system, the longer each retrograde period lasts. So today, on this little video, I was urged to mention something about Pluto. And Pluto retrograde and Pluto on the cusp, and how it's relevant to what's happening on Earth right now with our human experience. So I'm just going to go to that very briefly here. Cheers. So this is one of my astrodoodles, but it's extremely simple. There's nothing here except Pluto. Okay? Normally I would show you Saturn, Neptune, Mars, Chiron, North Node, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Uranus, and Jupiter. And right now the moon is around here towards the end of Leo. So that's all going on as usual. Pluto is right here on the tippy cusp. It's at about 1.5, almost 2 degrees of Aquarius. Okay, there's the Aquarius section over here. Hello, Victor. Here's the Aquarius section over here. And for the last 18 years or so, 18 or 19 years, Pluto was over here in Capricorn. Okay, and of course that was a very different worldly experience. I wrote my little book years ago about a very profound moment in astrology at the time of January 2020. This was a historical moment in world history because it's a very rare moment when we had Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter all aligned at the same degrees. I think it was 24, 26 degrees Capricorn. And it was a very powerful moment where I mentioned that what all this comes down to is essentially that we're going to reach a massive financial global cataclysm in the near future. And it would come about through global catastrophe. A lot of the catastrophic events are actually man-made through the global financial system. So that this whole book is about wealth, money, and finance. What does it mean? What is wealth? What is money? What is finance? And I go into it here. You can get this on Amazon if you want. it's relevant to today because everything we wrote about here is happening right now. Hello, Esther. But anyway, we're going into a little bit of a detail here. Specifically, the one mentioned that triggered the urging to make this little video was something about the WHO. That is the World Health Organization. So, right now, Pluto has already flipped retrograde. So a lot of people, we're at the 2-degree mark, so it's right here. Pluto is right here, okay? And it's moving retrograde here, okay? And at the end of the year of 2024, it's going to flip and go back direct again and eventually end up back in Aquarius for the next 20 years, okay? But we're not there yet. We're on the cusp. This is the cusp. We're flipping back and forth over the cusp like we've been doing for the last couple of years. But this is the last one, and it is the most treacherous, most precarious one of all. What's happening, and what you've probably noticed, is across the world is that billions and billions of people are waking up. They're waking up to the realization that they are imprisoned, that they have been scammed, duped, betrayed, undermined. They have been farmed. They have been turned into debt cows and debt slaves under the guise of governments and ruling authorities who claim that they're doing all of us a favor by trying to control and own and manage the world. The most powerful tool that they have, of course, are weapons. But there's another more powerful tool, I believe, and that's the global financial system, especially the financial system run and operated in the United States Federal Reserve Bank, and the banking system, which is now operational across the whole world. Every other country had to adapt their banking and financial systems to accommodate the United States. And they still do that to this very day. And the United States chose to turn the United States dollar into a weapon. Very, very, very powerful weapon. I think of it as actually the most powerful weapon. You don't notice it. That's the problem. With the tools and the games that they play at the Federal Reserve Bank, along with the American Treasury, they can effectively benefit or destroy economies across the world on a whim, just by changing a few buttons in their computers back at the head office. It's really kind of disturbing, but that's what they do. And they can print money and so on and create inflation and so on. They can try to deflate. They can raise interest rates. They can lower interest rates. They can print money. They can slow down the printing of money. Either way, these are massive tools of deception. And they work beautifully. So anyway, we're all subject to the United States Federal Reserve banking system. And in my view, they are probably the least visible, least understood element of control by the elite, the elites. Let's just call them the elites. So at the very, very, very top, if we look at a pyramid of like a hierarchy across the world, we have entities at the very top, like the big banks, the big politicians, the big countries, the big governments, the big armies, air forces, and navies, and so on. And they have history, they have characteristics. If you're in a tiny country in the middle of Africa, you don't typically have a lot of power or money or control. You might feel more like a victim. Just like what's happening with Sudan and Chad right now, or Libya or Kenya right now. It's very, very frightening to be over there. Anyway, I just watched a video from Neil McCoy Ward. Actually, I'll write his name. Anyway, I'm not going to put links or anything, but I'll write his name here in case you're interested. And he's kind of a geek when it comes to documents and the elites and the paperwork that they emit. He likes to really dive deep on things like the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, United States Federal Reserve, the World Health Organization, and so on and so on and so on. Because all of these folks, these are entities who are members of the global elites. What has come about is that the WHO, the World Health Organization, is deeply embedded with the United Nations. They are basically one and the same thing. And if you dig deep enough, you'll discover that this entity and this entity are more or less one and the same thing, and they have ambitions for a singular government that controls and manages and operates the whole world. All 8 billion people owned and managed and operated by this one organization. They've been working at it for decades, and they are very, very close to getting what they want. At the very top of the administration here are a bunch of elites from around the world. They're at the very top of the global political, banking, sociological structures. And one especially included is this place here, the CCP, Chinese Communist Party. Okay? This is all basically one entity. This thing here and this thing here. And just like a lot of these folks who propagate fraud, they present an image like, we are here to save you. We're going to organize the world better. We're going to make it better with politics, money, finance, health, climate, and everything. All you have to do is do exactly what we tell you. And if you don't, you're going to be basically dehumanized. Your money will be removed. Your ability to travel will be restricted. Your ability to grow or buy anything or sell anything will be restricted. You will live in a virtual prison operated through the newly being instituted CBDCs, Central Bank Digital Currencies. Okay? You've all heard about these because we've been talking about it for a long time on this channel. Central bank digital currencies. These are the power tools that are going to be used as extremely powerful and effective weapons to ensnare and entrap and control and manipulate the world population through the global banking system. Okay? So, if you can imagine all these well-meaning people working together in unison like a bunch of gangsters trying to take over a community. So you've got intermingling gangs carving out their turf, figuring out, well, we're going to take care of that one, that one, and that one. You can take care of that one, that one, and that one. We'll do that one and that one. So just like they did in the glory days of the gangs in London. or the gangs of New York, or the gangs of Chicago. So I consider these mostly just criminal organizations, but they dress up in suits and they write fancy letters and make fancy proposals for the world. They are addicted to power and money and control. They are completely empty, hollow souls because they don't feel that they have any sense of life or identity or meaning or purpose unless they can amass as much power, money, and control as they can get in this lifetime. And that all happens at the expense of you, or we the people. Okay? It's really, really simple. So right now, at the moment, what's going on is we've got about 8 billion people around the world who are rising up, shaking up, screaming, shouting, going into revolutions, marches, and openly speaking in defiance of the elites. It's happening all over the world, all over the news, if you look for it, if you know where to look. Of course, a lot of this might not be reported depending on your country, your culture, or where you live. But anyway, it's happening. These folks here, the various bodies, you could call them, they're men made up of different countries. They have militaries and weapons and everything. They're trying to impose their doctrine and their beliefs and their sense of order on top of 8 billion people. They reached a crescendo breaking point here at January 2020 when they broke through and they basically planted the seeds for a global financial catastrophic events that would play out over the next few years as a way to demolish any form of stability or structure or power for we the people or the individual. The goal of the elites is to completely obliterate and destroy your sovereignty, yourself, your sense of identity, your rights to freedom, freedom of thought, religion, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of trade, freedom to be a human being according to your nature. They don't like that. What they want to do, they want to treat you like a cow and they want to farm you until you collapse. Okay? They're going to extract energy from you. The extraction process is very beautiful. I'm not going to go into here, but it basically amounts to the global financial system. Anyway, one of the mechanisms that they have been trying to implement for decades is a globalized health paradigm that would give them complete operational control over the whole world under the guise of health. In other words, the World Health Organization. It sounds fantastic, doesn't it? We're here to help you. We are the World Health Organization and we care about you so much that we're going to organize everything for the whole world. If you dig deep enough, if you watch the video from Neil McCoy Ward, it was just out earlier today. Well, it was a few days ago. He does a very, very deep dive into all the most recent documents about the WHO agenda, explaining who they are and what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And if you read into it very, very deeply, like Neil does, you will realize and discover that this is a massive criminal organization essentially mimicking these folks through these folks as a way to take all the power and money and control of all human beings from we the people. If you think of Aquarius vibes as the energy of revolution, of we the people waking up, trying to shake off the shackles of an extremely perverse elite as represented by Pluto 29 degrees, then you'll understand. It's actually very simple. So, the way I see it is that we're on the cusp. The cusp is a very, very exciting, turbulent, frightening point in astrology, especially for Pluto. because it goes to the very, very depth of our soul of humanity. So in essence, we have a storyline that's unfolding. In this direction, Pluto going direct into Aquarius, we have a story about the whole world waking up, going into a state of vibrant revolution to shake off the shackles of the last 250 years of oppression by the elites, as represented by Pluto in Capricorn at the 29-degree mark, which would be, just here. Okay? If you go in this direction, this is the retrograde in Aquarius, where we are now, where we the people are waking up and realizing that we're getting screwed over by the elites, and it's very, very frightening for us, and we're going to do everything we can to stop it because we're desperate and we're frightened that these folks are going to be able to succeed in their agenda. The thing is, we have become aware. Aquarius equals wake up, people. So humanity is waking up, and in the process of waking up, they are realizing that we are surrounded by an extremely powerful group of elites who are doing everything in their power right now at this very moment in time to do the final stages of the ensnarement of humanity into their trap of globalized one world government managed and directed through the World Health Organization under the guise of trying to help you to be healthy. So people are waking up and saying, no, that's not cool. The document that Neil presented is a very clear, they tell you outright basically who they are and what they're trying to do, but the most frightening, terrifying aspects are in very, very small print, buried way at the end of the documents. Okay? But what it essentially tells you is that their goal, their ambition, is to completely take over the world and vest all the power of the WHO into one singular person who can make one singular decision that basically says, okay, right now we have a world emergency. You are all going to comply according to the World Health Organization's dictates, because if you don't, then the whole world is going to die in a massive epidemic. Right now, the big epidemic that they've planned is called the bird flu. The one we had a few years ago was another one, number 19. So this is the next one. It's the same story. And so this is happening live right now in real time. So we've got these two opposing forces happening simultaneously. Right now, with Pluto in retrograde coming up over here, we're going to find out more and more and more and more that the elites, as represented especially by the World Health Organization, are getting absolutely desperate to get every single country, I think it's about 180 countries, to sign on to this accord. It's called the World Health Organization Accord. It's not a treaty, it's not a legal thing, it's not a political thing, there's no voting, there's nothing. The WHO are using bribery, corruption, and betrayal and deception to force country leaders all over the world to sign the accord. 180 countries to sign the WHO Accord. And when they sign that accord, what happens is each country that signs the accord essentially hands over all power and all decision making for that country into the hands of the WHO. And that amounts to one single person for the whole world. It's a classic, communist dictatorship takeover plan. That's what it is. And they're very, very close. There are countries who've already signed up, but there are other countries that have figured out that this is a death trap. So they are resisting the signing. There are states inside the United States, I think it's Oklahoma and Louisiana, who've already signed declarations and laws in their states that they will not comply with the WHO Accord. They refuse to have their health care dictated by some elite body that doesn't really have any political legitimacy except the power that we give them. So the thing is about the WHO, they are aware that more and more people and more countries are figuring out that the WHO is not a benevolent organization to help you be healthy. It's a demonic organization designed to entrap you and imprison you and exploit you and turn you into a debt cow and a debt slave, okay, by their dictates. In other words, if you sign the accord and they dictate that you do something and you misbehave, they will control you through the CBDCs that they are planning along with these folks so that you become impotent as a human being. I mean, it's insane. These people are literally, I think they're literally insane. They're insane megalomaniac, power maniacs, sociopaths, psychopaths. But anyway, that's what they want. So the point I'm trying to make with this little illustration is that we are heading in this direction right now. Pluto is retrograde here, okay, like this. Pluto is direct like this. Right now, we are in the retrograde section right here. Guess what? When it comes to September 2024, we're going to cross the cusp exactly. And Pluto's going to go into Capricorn, the 29-degree mark. That's the degree of desperation. Okay? So that's going to stretch for September, October, and most of November. And that includes the crossing of the November 5th elections in America. So you can guarantee it's going to be pandemonium, chaos, deception, betrayal, and power gone completely berserk, out of control. That's September, October, and most of November. We're not there yet. We're still way over here in May. Pluto is already retrograde, but it's in Aquarius, okay? It's already retrograde in Aquarius here, but it is inching slowly to the exact cusp here. That exact cusp, as I just illustrated, is in on the first few days of September. Okay? So in terms of a time frame, May, June, July, August, 3 months. We have a 3-month period here during which the WHO is going to do everything it can to impose itself on we the people. Once Pluto crosses into 29 degrees retrograde Capricorn, the WHO is going to go absolutely berserk in its attempt to force the world to sign the WHO Accord for all 180 countries. The reason they're going to get so desperate is because that's what happens at the 29-degree mark. It's the degree of desperation. And the reason they're going to be so desperate is by the time we get to Pluto 29 degrees, the energy of desperation will be very, very obvious. In the next 3 months, there's going to be more and more chatter across the globe with the politicians and the governments about the World Health Organization Accord. And it's going to become more and more obvious that this is not good. This is not benevolent. This is evil. It is pure evil, manufactured by these folks under the guise of all these institutions filled up with people in suits and ties and jackets and dresses and skirts who try to look really, really important. And all they want is power, money, and control. They want absolute power over you. They want all your money, and they want absolute control over you. It's so pathetic, but that's what it is. So, a lot of people in my community where not a lot, I have a very tiny community, but in my world, I'm very acutely aware of all this stuff. And I'm hoping more and more people become aware. So for September, October, and November of this year, okay? September, October, November 2024, these are going to be 3 months of absolute desperation where the global elites, especially the United Nations, World Economic Forum, the Fed, and especially the World Health Organization, are going to go absolutely berserk in their final attempts to impose their evil agenda on we the people. It's a war. It's absolute war. Some people will get suckered and screwed into it. Some people won't. I think some people in America will try to get it signed on because they tend to benefit, because they want to be one of the elites, the elites. I, for one, am not interested in any of this stuff. It's pure evil. I want freedom. I want this. Okay? I want this. I want the reconstitution of the Constitution. I want to redeclare my independence. I want my First Amendment and I want my Second Amendment rights reconstituted. Okay, this is what I want. Okay, and there are at least 100 million other Americans who want exactly the same thing as me. We the people, especially these types of folks in America, we are enemy number one to these folks. They're doing everything they can to destroy us. Okay, so in terms of a calendar, I'm pointing out to this one because this is the sort of stuff that gets heavily buried in the news because the big mainstream media are part of the elites and they don't want you to be aware that you're going to get screwed by these people. So they're not going to report much about it. The only way you're going to learn about it is through alternative sources like this guy, or like us here, or like some of the other alternative sources like TikTok, Twitter, Telegram, Reddit, and so on. All those places where it's much, much harder for the elites to control the conversation. So anyway, this is going to happen, okay? This is what's actually happening. Pluto's in Capricorn retrograde, September, October, November. Pluto is in Aquarius retrograde right now. So we're heading into this period. And at the end of November, Pluto's going to go direct again, so the energy is going to flip this way. There's going to be a few more months of desperation, but it's direct. Okay, so I guess you could imagine the flip here. Okay, right here. When Pluto flips and goes back to direct motion, we're going to get another action replay over here. Let me go to the end. Go to November. And towards the end of November, Pluto's going to go back into Aquarius. Okay? And it's going to be in direct motion. So that's when things are going to get very, very turbulent. It just so happens that the United States presidential election happens right here in terms of timing. So you can expect tremendous treachery, betrayal, turbulence, upheaval chaos as the elites, especially these folks and these folks, go to war with we the people. It is a war. It's happening right now. It's the biggest war you can imagine. A lot of it is happening through the media, through actual wars, like with, Eastern Europe and with the Mediterranean, Middle East wars and things like that. All the wars in Africa and East Asia and so on and so on. Those are going to be going on anyway, because they've reached the point where violence is the only way that they have to express themselves. But America is going to get very, very rowdy here in America. Okay? So please prepare yourself for tremendous instability. September, October, and November. You've got a few months. Right now we're coming into June. So June, July, and August. Okay? You got 3 months to prepare yourself, embrace yourself, and make yourself as aware as possible about the dynamics of what's actually happening. Okay? And figure out what are you going to do about it. Things that I don't really know what to do. All I know is that things that I don't want to do. I'm just going to go over here for a second. Give me a moment. Okay. There are things that I don't want to do. I do not want to do anything with a central bank digital currency. That is a mechanism for enslavement, tyranny, imprisonment, operating through the global financial system. It's already happening in Australia. Sadly, Australia has been heavily infected by the World Economic Forum. Same thing is almost happening in Canada. It's very, very frightening. And they're trying to do it here in this country. The United States Federal Reserve Bank and the whole banking system is trying to figure out how can we impose the CBDC on the American population without them knowing that it's an evil tool, and without them knowing that they're getting screwed. How can we do that? Well, it's very, very tricky. So what they're going to do, they're going to try and present it to we the people as like, this is for your benefit. We're here to help you. We're here to save you. With a CBDC, you don't have to think anymore. You can do everything on your phone. All your money will come from here. Everything, all your transactions will process instantly from there. And it's cool, and it's really new, and it's neat, and it's fast. You don't have to bother with regular banks anymore. It'll be super streamlined, and we'll take care of everything in the background for you. Not good. Not good. If you misbehave, in other words, if you go out and buy guns and ammo, or you start to talk badly about the elites, they can go into your CBDC and demonetize you. They can debank you. They can cut off your privileges so that you cannot buy a plane ticket or rent a car or buy gasoline or buy foods or buy whatever you want or do whatever you want with your hard-earned money. Anyway, all of this is happening right now, live in real time. I track it pretty much every day, but again, what can I do about it? Pretty much the only thing I know how to do is say no, or try to figure out a parallel world, or try to prepare how to survive when things get really, really ugly. I don't know what it's going to look like. Oh yeah, that's the Love Triber's got a point there. That guy Tedros, the head guy at the WHO, he's a criminal. He's an absolute criminal. Yeah. So Anyway, I just wanted to put it out there. Necessary, looks like you got late. All I'm trying to do here, Necessary, I'm following up from your tip to Love Triber and then Love Triber's tip to me. Put something out about the World Health Organization. It just came after I saw the video from Neil today. And it's really, we need to wake up to find out, to understand what's really happening. The things that we're talking about here on this channel regarding Pluto, Pluto direct, Pluto retrograde, Pluto on the cusp of Aquarius and Capricorn, Pluto representing the very deepest depth of the soul in terms of astrology. We need to understand these things more than we do already. I'm hoping I can help people to do that. We understand a lot about Mercury, Venus, Mars, and everything. Those are the personal planets. That's been going on for thousands of years. Jupiter and Saturn, of course, they're also visible, but those are the visible planets, and the moon and the sun, of course. But in the last 150 years, the mythological planets of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were identified and brought into physical reality. And in so doing, I feel like our spiritual evolution has gone forward in very large steps, and we have discovered how little we really know about ourselves and each other. And it's very frightening. But the point is, with evolution, we can grow, okay? Pluto represents the very deepest depths of the soul. For a lot of people, they have very little connection with their Pluto energy. That's just how it is. Most people, most humans operate from the neck upwards. In other words, Mercury, Venus, and Mars energy. That's how most people operate. Also Sun and Moon. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Sun, and Moon. That's astrology for probably 95% of people on Earth. But when you get out into Jupiter and Saturn, you're starting to look into fate and fortune. And then when you go out to the impersonal planets, the invisible ones, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, you're going into the depths of the soul and beyond, okay? So that's what we're dealing with here. So in a nutshell, Necessary Truth, this little video is my attempt to describe the timeline in which we have to operate as we go through this tumultuous period in history over the cusp of Pluto in a Capricorn to Pluto in Aquarius, where the global elites are going to do everything to the point of absolute desperation in their final monumental attempts to impose their globalized tyranny, one world order, on top of we the people. Simultaneously, we the people are waking up enough to say, wait a minute, we don't really want this. We've started to figure out that your fancy words and packages and benevolent messages are not just lies, it's absolute betrayal, deception. The goal of those elites is pure evil. I'm sorry. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't know how easy it will be to navigate around it. They're going to do whatever they can to impose it. I don't know what's going to happen. Personally, I believe that inside America, there's going to be enough resistance to the WHO that America will not sign on to the accord. And it's going to be like this. There's going to be a lot of pressure from the WHO. You must sign, you must sign, you must sign. And enough states, countries, governments, state governors, mayors, whatever in America are going to say, wait a minute, no, 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 no. No WHO, no WEF, no CBDC, no UN. None of that. None of that stuff. We don't want any of it. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Take care, people. We all have stuff to do, lives to live, so get on with it. Protect yourself, protect your money, protect your privacy, protect yourself. pray for the reconstitution of the Constitution, okay? Do not comply, yes.